Not ignorance, but ignorance of ignorance is the death of knowledge. It requires a very unusual mind to undertake the analysis of the obvious. Art is the imposing of a pattern on experience, and our aesthetic enjoyment is recognition of the pattern. Civilization advances by extending the number of important operations which we can perform without thinking of them. The misconception which has haunted philosophic literature throughout the centuries is the notion of independent existence. There is no such mode of existence. Every entity is to be understood in terms of the way it is interwoven with the rest of the universe. We think in generalities, but we live in details. Philosophy begins in wonder. And at the end, when philosophic thought has done its best, the wonder remains. The only simplicity to be trusted is the simplicity to be found on the far side of complexity. From the very beginning of his education, the child should experience the joy of discovery. There are no whole truths, all truths are half-truths. It is trying to treat them as whole truths that plays the devil. Great dreamers' dreams are never fulfilled, they are always transcended. Error is the price we pay for progress. The safest general characterization of the European philosophical tradition is that it consists of a series of footnotes to Plato. The purpose of thinking is to let the ideas die instead of us dying. The art of progress is to reserve order amid change, and to preserve change amid order. Everything of importance has been said before by somebody who did not discover it. Every really new idea looks crazy at first. In formal logic, a contradiction is the signal of a defeat, but in the evolution of real knowledge it marks the first step in progress towards a victory. Intelligence is quickness to apprehend as distinct from ability, which is capacity to act wisely on the thing apprehended. We think in generalities, but we live in detail. To make the past live, we must perceive it in detail in addition to thinking of it in generalities. We cannot think first and act afterwards. From the moment of birth we are immersed in action and can only guide it by taking thought. The point about zero is that we do not need to use it in the operation of daily life. No one goes out to buy zero fish. The foundation of reverence is this perception, that the present holds within itself the complete sum of existence, backwards and forwards, that whole amplitude of time, which is eternity. Nature is probably quite indifferent to the aesthetic preferences of mathematicians. The essence of dramatic tragedy is not unhappiness. It resides in the solemnity of the remorseless working of things. A science that hesitates to forget its founders is lost. Nobody has a right to speak more clearly than he thinks. It is the business of the future to be dangerous, and it is among the merits of science that it equips the future for its duties. The silly question is the first intimation of some totally new development. In the conditions of modern life the rule is absolute, the race which does not value trained intelligence is doomed. It is in literature that the concrete outlook of humanity receives its expression. Our minds are finite, and yet even in these circumstances of finitude we are surrounded by possibilities that are infinite, and the purpose of human life is to grasp as much as we can out of the infinitude. Apart from blunt truth, our lives sink decadently amid the perfume of hints and suggestions. Life is complex in its expression, involving more than percipience, namely desire, emotion, will, and feeling. Wisdom is the fruit of a balanced development. Religion is what an individual does with his solitariness. Get your knowledge quickly and then use it. If you can use it you will retain it. Rationalism is an adventure in the clarification of thought. The aims of scientific thought are to see the general in the particular and the eternal in the transitory. Religion will not regain its old power until it can face change in the same spirit as does science. Its principles may be eternal, but the expression of those principles requires continual development. The deepest definition of youth is life as yet untouched by tragedy. If a dog jumps in your lap, it is because he is fond of you, but if a cat does the same thing, it is because your lap is warmer. My criticism of Hegel's procedure is that when in his discussion he arrives at a contradiction, he construes it as a crisis in the universe. Each creative act is the universe incarnating itself as one, and there is nothing above it by way of final condition. Necessity is the mother of invention, is a silly proverb. Necessity is the mother of futile dodges, is much nearer the truth. We think in generalities, but we live in detail. The degeneracy of mankind is distinguished from its uprise by the dominance of chill abstractions, divorced from aesthetic content. It is a false dichotomy to think of nature and man. Mankind is a factor in nature which exhibits in its most intense form the plasticity of nature. A student should not be taught more than he can think about. Panic of error is the death of progress, and love of truth is its safeguard. From the moment of birth we are immersed in action, and can only fitfully guide it by taking thought. Russell is a Platonic dialogue in himself. Philosophy is an attempt to express the infinity of the universe in terms of the limitations of language. Change is the description of the adventures of eternal objects in the evolving universe of actual things. God is the unlimited conceptual realization of the absolute wealth of potentiality. What we perceive as the present is the vivid fringe of memory tinged with anticipation. Faraday was asked, "What is the use of this discovery?" He answered, "What is the use of a child? It grows to be a man." That knowledge which adds greatness to character is knowledge so handled as to transform every phase of immediate experience. Which quotation do you like the most? Don't forget to subscribe.